Ever since Scream Factory announced that the first Friday the 13th films will be getting new 4K remasters, us 4K enthusiasts were chomping at the bit to wait for that 4K Blu-ray, and it finally arrived. We finally get the first Friday the 13th on 4K Blu-ray. Is it worth the anticipation? Was it worth the hype? Is it worth the upgrade? Let's talk about it. Yes, it finally arrived. I remember looking at that Scream Factory box set every single time I went to the store and seeing, I'll wait for that 4K. I'll wait for that 4K. Because it's inevitable, you know? If they put this amount of effort into actually getting a 4K remaster, they'll definitely do separate 4K releases. And just to talk about Friday the 13th, I can't gush over it enough. Most of my NECA figures are Friday the 13th Jason figures. Friday the 13th, Friday the 13th. I love me some Friday the 13th. One of the most rewatchable horror series for them being at least, 11 Friday the 13th. For the most part, there's only like maybe 2 really bad ones that I don't rewatch. But for the most part, for the first 7 films are really enjoyable, really rewatchable, and I have a soft spot for Freddy vs. Jason. But, you know, Takes Manhattan and Goes to Hell, even Jason X I kind of enjoy because it's a bit schlocky and it's fun. But, you know, Friday the 13th is amazing, and, you know, when we first got that announcement that the first 4 movies were on 4K, I was excited, and I was waiting for that 4K, and it officially came out to you by Paramount. It was the Scream Factory release, which I was a bit bummed because, you know, Scream Factory puts a lot of shit into it, but we're not talking about Scream Factory, we're talking about their new Paramount release of Friday the 13th, first part 1 on 4K Blu-ray. Alright, so first I just want to talk about the movie a little bit, because again, at the end of the day, we're all movie fans, and I enjoyed this movie. You know, it's not as, you know, good as I remember, but I have to remind myself that this was made in 1979, you know, released in 1980, so those kind of cheesy aspects of horror movies, this was kind of one of the first movies to actually integrate that movie of like, oh, there's a noise in the background, let me go check it out. There's a lot of really dumb kids, like, and a lot of these people are my age. Like, Kevin Bacon was my age when they filmed this movie, and it's absolutely crazy to know. So yeah, I can easily envision myself as one of those characters, but I'm not as stupid. And also, one weird thing was that I remember there being more kills. Like, I think the only kills on camera, there was maybe like 2 like actual, like, where you can actually see the kills, and the rest were either insinuated or like behind the scenes, which is kind of, we got Tom Savini, you know, utilize all of that stuff. I was watching the uncut version, and it wasn't really even that, you know, gory. You know, they showed dead bodies and stuff, and they showed the whole Kevin Spacey, the whole Kevin Bacon scene, and that was pretty cool. But besides that, it wasn't as gory or as, you know, murder hungry as I remembered it. So at the end of the day, even the performances weren't amazing, but they did the job. It was a fun movie. At the end of the day, I'll give it like a 6 out of 10 to 3 stars on Letterboxd. That's basically what I gave it. Alright, enough about the movie. If you're buying this 4K Blu-ray, you probably already watched this movie over a million times or something. Let's get into the 4K Blu-ray. So we're going to talk about a few criteria. We're going to talk about packaging, presentation. We're going to be talking about the image quality, so basically the 4K quality, you know, the sharpness and all that stuff. Then we're going to be talking about the colors, the HDR, the Dolby Vision, and then we're going to be talking about the audio, and then lastly, we're going to be discussing on whether you should be upgrading this to 4K. Let's get started with the packaging and presentation. So taking this off the ESO, we have here the Friday the 13th 4K Blu-ray in a nice looking slipcover with the OG artwork. I'm here in Canada, so unfortunately it says Friday the 13th Vendredis 1, 2, 3, 10, 9, 8, 11, 12, 13, Vendredi 13. And then on the spine it also says, Vendredi 13. Same on the side. I would have liked if it said Friday the 13th and then Friday the 13th. You probably won't be able to see it, Friday the 13th on the spine. But yeah, so packaging, I like it. I like the slip cover. Again, if I was in America and I had just the normal Friday the 13th, it would have been nice. And then when it comes to what this movie comes with, you know, packaging, presentation, but also, you know, just like bonus features, there's nothing really interesting. If you have that OG Friday the 13th uncut version you're basically set. There's no new 40th anniversary edition, bonus features. All of these are in standard def too. It says in HD, but it's standard def type quality, DVD type. Nothing impressive. So if you have that stuff, you're not really buying that for that. You're really mainly buying it for this uptick in 4K quality. Taking off the slipcover, it is the exact same. It does come with a 4K Blu-ray and a digital code. No Blu-ray, so that's how you're able to get it for so cheap. But on the inside, unfortunately, no real disc artwork. It just says Friday the 13th, not even with the red little blood logo. So that is a bit of a bummer. But, at least the slipcover is nice. And again, the bonus features I also want to mention, there is 75 minutes of bonus features because there is no separate Blu-ray to share the bonus features. I think they wanted to use most of the storage space for the actual 4K transfer. So that's why the bonus features are less than. Now let's get into the actual tech specs of it. Again, this is a 4K Blu-ray digital combo pack, no Blu-ray, so you get that extra savings. This is using the exact same 4K digital restoration that Scream Factory did in 2020 or 2021 or 2020 for their big box set. The aspect ratio is 1.85 by 1, so you will be getting full screen 4K glory. And then when it comes to the audio formats, unfortunately you don't get that OG mono track, but you do get this new 5.1 track. Now, first off, let's get into the image quality. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be comparing these Blu-rays to, late 70s, early 80s 4Ks, depending on the filming. But I want to say that this is a very low budget film, $500,000 max that they spent on this movie. So I don't expect, the cinematography isn't amazing. There are a bunch of soft shots, some close-ups are out of focus. This was a kind of ragtag production to capitalize on the hype of Halloween, but it doesn't really have that same semblance because the Halloween 4K is absolutely fantastic because they got the legendary Dean Cundy to do the cinematography, and it is shot so good. Friday the 13th, on the other hand, kind of has that home video type feel, so you're not gonna get the most amazing, super fantastic quality. So that is also why I just want to throw that out there. All right, so before we get into the review, I just want to make a little disclaimer. I am watching this on my 65-inch 4K OLED C1, the LG OLED C1. I'm watching this in my basement at the dead of night with all the lights off, completely pitch black. So different situations, different panels, different screens, different types of maybe projection if some people will heed different qualities and different ways that the transfer will look. So yeah, when it comes to just the source material in general, this film is a bit limited, being that this is a very low budget film, even though it has $200,000 more than Halloween had. Again, this was a bit of a more, kind of ragtag type production. Again, and that shows in its quality. Some shots are out of focus. Wide shots can be very soft at some points. I'm not taking away, because there are some really nice close-ups and really nice shots, but for some parts, it does look its age and it does look its, budget. But again, this is a 4K Blu-ray. You are gonna get some uptick in 4K quality. Things like facial features, skin imperfections, the main camp counselor, the main owner, he has a nice mustache and you can see the stubble on his cheeks. That shines nicely when it's getting hit by sunlight. Clothing detail also looks really cool. You can really differentiate between different types of clothing, cloth materials, different colors, different types of stitching and patchwork and all that stuff, so you're not going to lose detail there. And I also want to say that this is a clean transfer, not in the sense that it's been refurbished too much, just in the sense that, sometimes you see 4K transfers, sometimes you see Blu-ray transfers, and there's lots of film degradation and lines and imperfections within the source material. This is completely fixed and clean, and it is a nice looking transfer. When it comes to just the film print itself that they used, they were able to clean it up very nicely without using DNR, which is my next point, is that this is a extremely grainy film. Now, I don't hate on grain. I actually really enjoy the kind of lively aspect of grain. It really adds this kind of homage, this neatness, this nostalgic feeling that makes me feel warm and gushy inside. But for some people, when thinking of the grand scale of 4K movies, oh, should I get this 4K? Should I get that 4K? Oh, I only like clean transfers. This is definitely not going to be for you, because it is extremely grainy. There were some shots of the open sky that looked so grainy. I was like, is this real? This can't be real. This is like Grain City. I feel like I'm at the beach from how much grain there is. So for grain haters, I would stay as far away from this. I'd treat it like the plague because this is grainy as shit. So if you hate grain, this is definitely, you can automatically skip this 4K. You know, with this added level of sharpness, the special effects really pop out. Again, it does look very obvious that they're special effects, that they're just like makeup. You can obviously tell that it's clay putty and stuff with like little gore effects, but it kind of adds to this like, this kind of charm to it. And I really like that because Tom Savini is definitely one of the greatest, up there with Rick Baker and all that kind of stuff when it comes to, you know, gore effects or practical special effects in general. So this does heed well, but again, you know, for some people who don't like that, I guess, I don't know, but I really enjoy that aspect because I really like, you know, knowing the filmmaking aspects of this movie. So now let's get into the HDR Dolby Vision. This has Dolby Vision, and I was extremely excited for this. And I don't know, I haven't seen other people's reviews, but I feel like this is going to be an extremely hot topic, you know, because comparing this to the Blu-ray, this can feel darker. I didn't notice it, you know, not because I don't have the Scream Factory Blu-ray and I didn't watch the standard Blu-ray previously. I came in with blind eyes, you know, with a, you know, big 4K TV. Let's pop in the 4K and see how it looks. And it didn't look super dark to me, but you know, comparing it to the Scream Factory screenshots, it does look pretty dark. But when it comes to darkness in this movie, there's a lot of nighttime scenes filmed in the shade, scenes filmed in low light situations, and the black levels. This is the biggest positive of this review, is that the black levels are super inky black. It is absolutely fantastic, and there's honestly very minimal detail crush. You're able to see a lot of things, you know, because that's one of the biggest upscale to Dolby Vision, is that you're able to see little minute details that you would have missed out if you're watching on like a 1080p TV, or you know, watching it on an older transfer. The 4K can look pretty good at times when it comes to black levels. But what's crazy is I've never experienced this before in my life, is the white levels. I know of a lot of people have talked about black levels, and in my videos, I do talk about color accuracy and white levels, or white colors, and whiteness is the absence of color, or all colors combined, or something like that. But white, you know, depending on the transfer, white can look more gray instead of white, instead of like a pure white. And this was white. It was a pure white, you know, people wearing, you know, white shorts or a white tank top, and that looked really white. But unfortunately, I think they overexposed a lot of the film. I know this is a problem in the original Blu-ray that I have right back here, is that it's really overexposed on the whites. Like, there's white crush. I never thought I would say this, but there is white crush in that initial scene where the girl is walking up to the, specifically when the girl's walking up to that gas tank or that gas pump, and you can't even, you know, see the letters, but then the next scene she's closer up to it, and they lower the exposure, and then you can, you know, read the actual words. And then there's another scene where she's walking across the street and there's these white picket fences and these white signs. And again, that looks so blown out and so overexposed. I was like, holy shit, what is going on here? So the blacks are really inky, but the whites are overexposed, and they kind of ruin a lot of, you know, certain shots that look super bright. Because that was actually a pretty good thing I liked, was that the black levels are so inky black. When there's scenes like people flashing their flashlight in your face, you're like squinting, like, ah, what the fuck, dude, get the fuck out of my face. Like, I was squinting throughout a good portion of the movie because of how much, you know, just dark inky, and then all of a sudden like a big flash of like white light, and it was like, oh god. It's not as bad as the third Matrix when it's like really inky black and all of a sudden like really like quick flashes of like lightning where it blinds you. You could barely even open your eyes because there's so much blinding light. It wasn't like that, but it was a nice effect to make it feel realistic, because when you see the camp counselors, you know, squinting their eyes, you know, when the main camp counselor is being shunned with the eyes, you actually feel that kind of tension with you. So it's kind of a hit and it's kind of a miss. But when it comes to the normal colors, I actually really enjoyed it. It has a really nice, realistic type vibrancy to it. There are moments where the green looks really nice, and you can see different levels of different greens, because this takes place during a camp. A lot of trees, different, you know, trees have a different shade of green compared to the grass, and it looks really nice. Things like reds and blues, they look really nice, really rich, really vibrant, but have a nice realistic vibe to it. And it just gave me this really warm, nostalgic 80s home video type feel. I don't know, like it feels like a guy, you know, brought his cinema camera and was hanging out with his friends and filming at the local camp. That's kind of what it felt like. And then when it comes to the skin tones look really, really good. I mean, you know, kind of a detriment towards the thing if you're really nitpicky, because you can obviously tell that, you know, redness in the skin, especially when someone's stabbed or when someone's acting and they have to be really intense, compared to like the pure kind of like opaque type white contrasting from it, where, you know, because obviously no one's actually getting their throat slit, right? So there's putty and there's molding clay, and that's very clearly obviously seen because the skin tones are nice and they pop, and everyone looks alive until they're not. But the reds look nice, the blood looks nice. I can't really show much gore in here because I don't want to get taken down because YouTube is fucking like that. But I just take my word for it. The HDR looks good, the gore looks good, and the HDR really adds that level of depth when it comes to things like blood and gore and dried blood, and you really tell the difference. And now let's talk about the audio. It's a decent 5.1 track. I am sad that there's no mono track, because the mono track I heard was really, really good when it, you know, when the Scream Factory box set came out. But again, it's like, it's whatever. It's a 5.1 track. It's okay. You know, you're able to have some channels are popping off with people walking behind you, the wind rushing through the grass and the trees, the lightning going off, the rain pitter-pattering. One of my biggest, you know, weird kind of things is that the music by Manfred Eady sounds fantastic. It's amazing. But when you're comparing that to like kind of like that outdated low res, like that crackly type audio, you know when you watch like a movie from the late 70s or the 80s, that dialogue is very, you know, warm and fuzzy and kind of that kind of feeling. But then the music is very modern and clear and crisp. You know, it's very jarring to me. So that's basically what I have to say about the audio. The dialogue was clear. I didn't have any problems with, you know, raising my volume. You know, the music cues worked really well, and I didn't really have a big problem. It's not gonna blow you away, but it definitely, it's serviceable towards the transfer. For being a low budget horror film, it does the job, okay? And now the moment you all been waiting for, we're about 20 minutes in. Is this worth the upgrade from Blu-ray? First off, if you have this OG, this is just a compilation of all the OG Friday the 13th Blu-rays that they originally released. Yes, this is 100% worth. If you only have this, I would say, I don't know, because these are kind of like, I thought that this was decent. These were decent transfers, but when comparing it to the Blu-ray, like this is nowhere as near sharp. You don't get that much detail. Black levels look almost gray-like, and things just like mesh together. The grain structure doesn't really match, and it's all boxy and pixelated. But if you have that big box set, that Scream Factory box set, I don't know if they did restorations for all of them. I know at least for the first 4 they did brand new restorations. And, you know, because I don't have it, I had to rely on Reddit forums and comparing screenshots. This has that same exact kind of over-contrasted, overexposed white levels that ruin detail. Apparently they fixed that in the Scream Factory Blu-rays, but for some reason it kind of renegated back when adding the Dolby Vision onto this 4K. So I don't know, like I know Movie Guy 265, he said that the colors are more richer and warmer in this 4K, which I'll take his word for, because I don't have the Scream Factory Blu-ray box set. I just wanted to talk about that because I know a lot of people do. I know that was super hyped, and at least now you can get it for a decent price, 120 bucks Canadian, at least here. So it's probably cheaper in the US. You can probably get it for under 100 bucks. But that was basically the biggest gripes when people were talking about, you know, whether you should get the 4K or if you have the standard Blu-ray, the Scream Factory box set Blu-rays, or even comparing it to the red cased Friday the 13th. If you don't want to get that big box set, they had these reissued Friday the 13th collections, those 8 film collections, or no, I think it had all, I don't know, I think it's the 8 film collections with the first, you know, 4 movies with the 4K. So if you have those, I don't recommend it. If I have to give each number, image quality would be 6.5, HDR Dolby Vision would be a 6.5, and then the audio would be a 5. It does the job. It doesn't really blow you away, but again, this is a low budget horror film. I'm gonna say that this is for fans only. I would not recommend this 4K if you don't already love the franchise. If you want really good horror on 4K, I recommend something like, you know, Alien, something like Halloween if you want more slasher. things like The Shining, those movies are fantastic. They're filmed really nicely and they translate really well to 4K. This doesn't really translate to 4K as good as those films. It's decent, but again, it's mid. Like, this is, I would say this is maybe at level with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 4K, if you've seen that. But Texas Chainsaw Massacre 4K, or the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in general, was supposed to have that dirty, dingy, documentary style, you know, low cinematography type, you know, thing. It's not supposed to look like a movie, it's supposed to look like a real life event. This kind of has that vibe to it, but you can tell it was trying to go for more and doesn't really achieve that. So at the end of the day, I'm gonna give this a 6.5 out of 10. For fans only, again, you know, because it is cheap. It's like, I got this for $24 new. I pre-ordered it for $24. Now it's retailing for $27. At $27 after tax and shipping, it's going to be $32. I would not recommend it. That's too high. Maybe Black Friday for 10 bucks or under, then maybe be cool, because it does come with a nice slipcover. But again, if you have that big, you know, big chunk and Blu-ray box set from Scream Factory, you're gonna get so much stuff. You're gonna get better exposure levels. Even though the colors may look richer on the 4K Blu-ray, on the the reds and stuff like that, I can't really recommend that to be the biggest overall thing, because again, the contrast and the exposure, the white levels are so hiked the fuck up to a point where you're losing detail. Why would you get a 4K Blu-ray if you're losing detail? So that's basically my opinions. I'd say if you have the big box set, the big honkin' chonker box set, but if you even have that red cased reissue that came out last year, I would say this isn't worth the upgrade. But again, if you have this, even if you have this, honestly, if you have this version and you want to upgrade to get the big Blu-ray box set, because the first movie is what? $27, so $30, and then the 4 movies, so 3, 6, 9, 12. At that point, you'd rather just get the Scream Factory box set. God damn it, cinema inspired. Alex, you were right. It's not worth the upgrade. I would say for fans only again. And yeah, so those are my opinions. Let me know down below. Did you guys like the transfer to this Friday the 13th movie? Did you like Friday the 13th in general? I mean, I'm a huge fan of Friday the 13th. This wasn't as amazing as I remember it, because I haven't seen this movie since I was like 13 or 15 years old. But it was still a fun watch. It's a crisp, clean 90-minute, 85-minute movie. But yeah, you know, the writing is a bit wonky. The performances aren't the greatest, but it's still a fun movie. Those are my opinions. 6.5 out of 10 for fans only. Thank you so much for watching another video, man. I'm Mitch from the Mockbuster YouTube channel. If you enjoyed this review, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. And let me know down below, what do you guys think about the new camera? You know, I also have a lav mic now, so hopefully this looks more professional. I just need to get a few more lenses to make, you know, the background look more blurry and fancy. But, you know, we'll get there. We'll get there. Black Friday's coming soon. But anyways, that has been it. I've been Mitch from the Mockbuster YouTube channel. Please have yourself a good day, night, evening, afternoon, morning. Whenever you're watching this, please stay safe and God bless. Peace, cheers, and kill her, mommy. Kill her. See ya.